Okay, so I finished through row 14, and by the way, I never talked about what do these numbers at the end mean. At the end of each line of a pattern, a lot of times pattern writers will put the number of stitches. So we're at the end of row 14, and so the number 4 lets us know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches in row 14. So I just use the stitch marker to hold my spot. Okay, so we're at the end of row 14. If we look at row 15, it says, well, I didn't do the last step of row 14, which was to chain 1 and turn. So in row 15, we're going to do a decrease. So I'm going to go through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. I have 3 loops. Back down to 1 loop, and then I'm going to go through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, go through, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, back down to 1 loop. So that was row 15. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And I have 2 stitches at the end of row 15. So I'm going to go through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, through, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, yarn over, pull through. Now, it says to join with SS. Where does it say here? Join with SS. So SS is an abbreviation that stands for slip stitch. A slip stitch is just a way to see. Right now my my loop is on the right side. A slip stitch is just a way to move where this loop is without increasing or changing the height of my work. So I want to move this loop over to the other side so I kind of have a rounded end. So slip stitch, you go through, yarn over, pull through, but then you just pull through again. So it's kind of like a chain stitch, but it's like flat against your work. So we did a slip stitch, and then a finish off is easy. Finishing off, you just pull through, and then you pull your whole yarn through. Now, I actually had previously cut my yarn. Well, I didn't cut my yarn. I Incredible Hulk broke my yarn because I couldn't find my scissors. And so you just cut your yarn, you pull it all the way through, and then when you tighten it, you'll see that it creates a knot. And so that's now finished off. Now the reason why we did that slip stitch before we finished off, if we'd finished off, it would have formed kind of a sharp point on this side. But by doing the slip stitch and kind of rounding it over and then finishing it off on this side, we get a nice rounded base of our manta. So this is the top part of the manta. And you don't have to worry about these tails when you're doing plushies, which is what I like a lot because you can just tuck them on the inside. So that's great. A couple things to note. You said that your piece was curling and you showed me that picture. That's because your foundation row, your chain stitch row, was a little bit too tight. So because your chain stitch row was tight and then you were doing more stitches in that chain stitch row, it ended up kind of curving in the opposite direction. That's something that will definitely happen when you first start out. So what some people like to do is, especially in the beginning, if they're doing their whole work, like this is a 5mm hook, they'll do their chain stitch row in a 6mm hook, or just like a size up, like a 5.5. And then that way they know they're not going to make it too tight. But it's okay that yours is curling, because all will happen is when you stitch the top and the bottom pieces together, it might end up a little bit, instead of sitting flat, it's going to curve. but it's going to give your piece character, and it'll make it your first crochet work, which is exciting.